Maria has strong support from the Prime Minister and lots of colleagues, and she's been an excellent Culture Secretary, so I absolutely think she shouldn't resign. This was a 16-month inquiry where all the allegations against her were dismissed, and they looked into everything in detail, and therefore, in terms of fairness, we should just let her get on and do the job.
She wasn't exactly, 31, 32, 33 seconds, depending on who stopwatch you were relying on when she gave her apology in the House of Commons. She tended to get a little bit of support while she was making that statement in the House of Commons, but she wasn't relying on that transcending over to the public, was she? Because 3/4 of the public asked today in this Comrades poll say it's time she was off.
But I don't think the public necessarily know all the details of the case, because in some of the newspapers it's been like a witch hunt where, they don't like the work that Maria has done on Leveson and gay marriage, and therefore what they are trying to do is find a way to get her out of her job. And it's not the media who decide who is in Cabinet, it is the Prime Minister. And Maria has been an excellent Culture Secretary, and we should judge her on her record in doing that. And therefore, my view is that we should absolutely let her get on and do it.
Which newspapers have been part of a witch hunt?
Well, I think you only need to look at the newspapers to see which ones have been at the centre of this.
And I just think, you can't throw those allegations around and then not back them up. Which newspapers have been part of the witch hunt?
You know yourself which
perhaps
newspapers.
You could tell me because you
know yourself which newspapers have been part of this.
Perhaps you could tell me which ones were involved in the witch hunt. Which ones are you thinking of in particular?
You know which newspapers have had these articles in day after day, and there are journalists outside Maria's house. I think harassing her children and her parents. That sort of thing is
you can't just throw those sweeping allegations in there.
But let's be clear about this case. Let's be clear about this case anyway. This case is about an old regime that now has changed, and I think in terms of democracy and looking at how we improve Parliament, and I want to get more women coming into Parliament. The way we do that is to have a very clear process that is fair for pay and expenses, and that has now changed. So this is referring back to years before 2010. That has now been dealt with, and I think therefore we should be fair to Maria. And let her get on and do her job.
Which newspapers harassed her parents and her children at the house?
I didn't say her newspapers harassed her parents. I said there were journalists outside her house
presumably journalists that were working for newspapers.
Well, I didn't speak to the journalists, so I don't know which journalists they were from.
And children?
But there were people outside her house. There were people outside our house, which I think any human being would think is unacceptable.
Which journalists were harassing her children
in the house and elderly parents?
No, you said that journalists had harassed her children outside the house. Which ones?
I said they have been outside the house
harassing her children, is what you said.
Children and elderly parents in the house, when this has nothing to do with it.
Okay, so you're backtracking on that now.
This is about Maria Miller in her role as an MP due to her expenses. Every allegation has been dismissed.
And you think this has got something to do with Leveson as well, don't you? You think this has got something to do with Leveson, don't you? Can I ask you any questions?
You've got to be fair.
Well, the reason I'm asking you this is because of this tweet, this text that you sent this afternoon. So let's just show our viewers this and see what they think. This is a text, I believe, that you have sent this afternoon that says, "I believe there is a media witch hunt on Maria due to Leveson. How do you feel about it?" This is to other backbenchers. "Happy to answer any questions you may have. She would really appreciate your support. Many thanks, Mary." Did you send that?
I sent that to a few colleagues, yes.
OK, so you think it's about Leveson, do you?
I think it's Leveson and probably equal marriage as well.
And what as well, sorry?
And equal marriage as well.
OK, so you think that newspapers like the Daily Telegraph, the Sun newspapers, the Daily Mail potentially as well, you haven't told me which ones you're referring to, they are behaving in the way that they are, not because it's a Culture Secretary, a Minister that has overclaimed on her expenses and has been forced to pay it back and forced to make an apology in the House of Commons, but because of Leveson and the views on gay marriage.
She was asked to make an apology. That is correct, but it was her that brought up the £5,800 that she felt that she owed on the claims due to fluctuating interest rates, and that is what she has paid back. So that was the issue there. But these allegations have all been dismissed by this inquiry. So all I'm saying is, now that inquiry, it took 16 months. Now that inquiry has taken place, let's make sure that we actually abide by what they say in the inquiry, and let's let her get on and do her job, because it was found out that these allegations weren't true and appropriate, and so they have been dismissed.
You completely ignored my question, so I'll ask it again. Under what circumstances do you think that the newspapers that I have listed that you owned, the Mail, the Sun, the Telegraph and the like, are acting in the way that they are as a direct result of a witch hunt over Leveson, as opposed to an MP who was forced to pay back money that wasn't hers?
Well, why do you think, when allegations have been dismissed, are they continuing this story day after day?
I don't know. I'm asking you.
That's what I'm asking you. You're
no, I'm asking you.
Why would they continue
You're
day after day, unless there was a hidden agenda? And it's not just me saying this; it's many other MPs who are saying this too. Because Maria has a lot of support, and I think she's a brilliant culture secretary, and I just want her to get on and do the job that she's in there to do.
Okay. So is it about Leveson or not?
I think the role that the media role behind it is about what she's done on Leveson and equal marriage. They're not treating her fairly, and I think they should let her get on and do the job, because the allegations have been dismissed.
OK, so that's the press. What about the public? 3/4 of the public say it's time she went.
I want the public to hear the real story, which is why I came on today. I want them to know the facts of it, because there's been these such negative headlines about the story. Whereas, I want them to know that there has been a 16-month-long investigation, an inquiry into this. The allegations have been dismissed. She was asked to apologise, which she did do to the House. She came up with the £5,800 that she felt she owed due to fluctuating interest rates, and she has paid that amount. So, now it's saying, as human beings, surely we should be able to say that's fine, that we'll abide by the results of that inquiry. These allegations are dismissed. We now need to let someone get on and do the job that they're there to do.